Welcome to the Governor's Garage. I'm Kyle Feltz, the governor of Capital City Corvette Club, a founding member of NCCC, and a lot of people, even within NCCC, keep asking me about this and that topic and don't fully understand it. So there was a demand for this. This episode's going to be a little bit different. This is NCCC 101, and we're here to tell you what it is. And I've got a long-standing lifetime member coming to sit down with me, Jeff Kubiak. And Jeff, I really appreciate you taking the time to come in here. You've been a longtime member, a multi-generational family member, and yeah, I just really appreciate the time. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Well, thank you, Kyle. Thanks for having me on the show, and thank you for doing this. Not only this podcast, but all the others. They've been interesting. You're getting a lot of good information out there, a lot of interesting people. And this 101 is, I think, going to be helpful in understanding who we are.
Awesome. So you, like I said, your story goes back to the 70s, and you just didn't discover the organization. You were born into it. So tell me a little bit about what you were just seeing in those early days when you were going with your dad to these events.
Well, yeah, it actually, Dad was a member of his local club in 1969, and that club didn't become part of the NCCC until 1974, and they wanted to be part of the convention. But my recollection of it, even through the 74 on up, was primarily going to the track. There were lots of parties and an occasional concourse and maybe a rally, but I wasn't too much involved with those. I remember just going to the track.
Sure. And so you probably didn't have any real understanding of what organization NCCC was at that time. So what did you even know about how it worked at that time, or what NCCC was when someone said that?
Even into my 20s, right before I left, I got married and so forth, kind of fell away. But even as a young adult, I only knew as these bunch of people went to, had Corvettes, and they went to the track. They had some concourses. They did some parties. I was at that time able to go to some parties, but it wasn't even clear to me, who the club. This club, that club, and they're all part of the region. And then later I found out that there's lots of regions, and they're all part of national. And it wasn't until I got back into it that I started understanding the whole organization and everything that they had to offer.
Right. So you were just seeing a lot of people show up to track, serious racers, and a lot of serious racing going on that day. And yeah, I'm sure after hours, once the cars were put back up on the trailers, everybody cuts loose a little bit. But so let's talk about that. So what tracks were you going to then?
Well, our racing home was Nelson Ledges, the fastest 2-miler in Northeast Ohio. But we did a lot at Mid-Ohio, Indianapolis Raceway Park, Putnam Park. We did, wherever my dad was willing to tow the trailer. So.
Sure. Yeah, no, I get it. And like you said, and then, as you got a little bit older, as families happened and other life events, and you lose a little bit of your hobby time there in your 20s. And so certainly, you had a perception of what was going on. And I think we all know that racing like that and club racing was a lot more popular back then. So when you returned, the organization had evolved a little bit, we'd say. So
even though I wasn't too attuned to what it was, I did know it was a little different.
And someone even told you something like 7 car shows in one day, huh?
Yeah, 7. You park the car once, and you go to 7 car shows. But that makes sense as you get into it, like you were saying.
Sure. When we get to the structure, it starts to make sense. And I even thought it was odd as a new member when I heard stuff like that. I'm like, we're going to 7 car shows in a day? What? Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, like you're saying, when we get into what the NCCC structure actually is here, we'll talk about. So we operate on 3 levels, right? And I hear it a lot when people say, well, you guys have too many rules, or, your organization, it's this or it's that, and we don't want someone to tell us how to enjoy our car. Well, that's the good news. NCCC does not. We operate on 3 levels, and the first level is the club, and then there is a regional level that organizes them together, and then a national level that supports those regions. But at the club level, you're insulated from that. It's your club. We want you to come be a part of it, but the only thing that we require is that you have a person that you call a governor that comes represent your club, and that you have at least 51% of your club is NCCC members, and that's for insurance purposes. We'll get into that in a little bit later, but that's the two requirements to have your club in. Now, Jeff and I have interesting perspectives on the club side of things because I've been president and governor of a founding club. Jeff, as he mentioned, was a member of Corvette Cleveland with his dad, and that's one of the original clubs as well. And then he's had the fun of starting his own club, which is always an adventure.
But yeah, so my club is focusing on racing and getting recognized for your racing and getting a trophy at the end of the event, and it's been a lot of fun. That's our focus. But most other clubs, like Corvette Cleveland, they have everything, right, except perhaps the time trials. But in fact, that's one of the reasons I started the club is because I did see a need or an opportunity there, and we're trying to develop that aspect.
Sure. And see, so Capital City is, as I said, we don't have them. I have, on the other hand, I have about 5 guys that regularly autocross with me. And then we have a handful of people that regularly do rallies and Funkhanas. And we're going to get into all what that all means. But those are more social events where we go and play games in a field or drive around a little bit and then go have dinner together instead of going to a track. And, NCCC allows you to tap into all that. But if all you wanted to do was to have your own car shows locally, if you only want to go to your local events, that's fine. People in your club can do that as well. You still get the benefits of the discounts, the insurance, and some other things we'll go into when we start talking about the benefit. You tap into that, whether if you ever go to a national or regional event in your whole club lifetime. But there are benefits and discounts to joining. So, but as we organize the group, so here in Michigan, we have 16 clubs that are in the Michigan region. And throughout the country, there's a different number of clubs that form different regions, but it's basically a small group that form into what is a region. And Jeff, I forget what our current count is. Is it 14 regions? 16 regions?
I want to say it's closer to 14.
Whatever it is, that you guys, you're in Ohio. But anyway, so, the regions coordinate the clubs and they allocate sanction numbers. And don't freak out when I say sanction number yet, because we're going to explain what that is. That's very important. And it scares people when they hear something like that, but it's not. It's a tool. The other thing the region helps, it helps build regional calendars. And Jeff, I'm going to let you speak on this because you know what it's like to have to schedule an event. So having a region where we pull clubs together and have an agreed upon calendar where we bid dates is a big help with that. So please discuss that a little bit because you get where your venues have very limited dates and protected dates becomes very important.
Yeah, here in Ohio, you have summertime is when you get your Corvette out. So there's only so many weekends available. And this club wants to put a car show on. This club wants to put a rally on. And of course, you have to kind of coordinate because this club putting on the car show wants all the other people, members of the region to attend. So they coordinate. Some regions will have like a draft party where they'll let the club in first place pick the first date and then they go down the line and then they can lock in their weekend, so they're kind of protected, and that way the whole region can celebrate with each of these events as to. Smaller regions like the West Ohio region, we don't necessarily do that, but the RCD, I was just finished my term as RCD. I would coordinate that. I mean, if I knew, people would kind of check in with me as to what events they want to put in, and I tell them what dates available. I had a little matrix that keep track of what's going on where and try to publicize it and let people know what's available. Yeah. But just so we don't overlap, that's why we want to coordinate.
It does. I mean, it helps pull a group of agreed upon, and then, there's always strength in numbers. That's what the region brings because even clubs that aren't associated, if they want to have an autocross, they understand if they have it on that date that they're losing 16 to 20 cars. Whereas if they move it to a different date, you will show up, or those 16 or 20 cars are going to show up at that autocross. So that's where it starts to play in. Let's jump on to the side of national, right? Because we discussed what regional does. So national, we have meetings, quarterly meetings, where we all come together and a convention, right? But what does national provide to the clubs? That's what we talked about. It maintains a rule book. Now, the rule book applies to competition, not to how you operate your club. Just want to be clear there. They provide insurance, point tracking, awards, a convention. And the big one here is continuity for the organization. I did mention before, or no, I didn't. I forgot to mention, people can join as members at large, which I think is important for you, because even if they don't join a club, they can still join the day of at an event as a member at large, meaning they get all the benefit and coverage of NCCC without directly belonging to a club. So if, for instance, you're watching this and you don't have a club within 3 or 4 hours of you and you're just like, whatever, no, we can still be for you. We can still support you. You can join as a member at large, and you can throw your hat right in with the rest of this. So Jeff, with all that being said, because I just went through the gamut on national, right? I'm going to let you soften it up a bit from a person who's started a club. How did national support your club?
Well, in forming the club, they held my hand very tightly. They were very helpful. They guided me along the way as far as all the logistics that have to happen. It's not I shouldn't say a lot. It wasn't that hard to start the club, but there's some things you have to do, and the national officers, particularly the membership director, was spoon fed me what I had to do. I just did it, and lo and behold, I have a club. So you have to have so many members signed up. You have to, you can't just start a club of one. I think it's 12 today. It's 12 members need to be in your club before you can even apply. But I had that, and so we became became a club. But another thing too, when you're talking about clubs and local clubs, if you have an opportunity to join a club, you can join member at large, meaning you don't have a club but you're in the region. There's a lot of benefits to being in a club. If you have, even if you just have a problem with your car, I guarantee you go to a meeting and you say, hey, this light's coming on or it's making this noise. Somebody in that club has had that problem and knows what you need to do to fix it or who to take it to. You can join a club just to hang out with like-minded people. I mean, if you're like you were saying before, your car can be anything you want it to be. It doesn't have to conform to a racing class. You can just have a show car with crazy wheels or gull wing doors or whatever turns you on. You have to have a Corvette, and then you can join a club. And then I suppose I take that back. You don't even have to have a Corvette. There are membership levels that will allow you to join. If you even like the Corvette, you can be an associate member.
That's right. And you can join as soon as 16 as a youth member. All right. So now that you understand a little bit about the structure and some of that stuff that sounds strange, like we said, you can park a car once and do 7 car shows. And my personal favorite, a sanction number, are going to start to mean a little bit more now as we start to break some of this down. So the first thing I want to go into is we've touched on them all. We've said these words is the event types. So let's talk about what each one is. And Jeff, we're going to start with car shows, and we've got a few variations on those. So Jeff, tell me what a car show is as far as NCCC is concerned.
Well, with a sanction number, you can assign a number to it so you can register it on the system, but get flyers and so forth. But it's almost a social gathering. You can have a car show and park your car and then give awards based on whatever criteria you see fit. It's usually you park the car, you clean the car, and then you talk to people. You talk to your fellow participants. You get to socialize. It's a little tight-knit community of camaraderie, like-minded thinking people. Just hang out and soak in the Corvette-dom, if that's a word.
No, absolutely. I think that car shows are the social hub of our community. I'm not a big car show person in the fact that I have a race car. I have numbers sitting on the side of it. I have a racing harness in it, and it's not always clean. But that's okay. I love going to car shows, especially people's choice car shows, like you mentioned, because I show up, I do clean up my car, but then I leave the door open with the harness out there, and when I see kids come look at it, I look at the parents and say, you want to let them sit in there, put the harness on, take pictures of them.
Yeah.
And it's nice having a car that you don't care if they get a little bit of grass in or whatever, but because that gives us a chance to maybe give that first bite, that first experience in a Corvette, and maybe it sticks. But that's the social hub. I say that because car shows bring out big numbers of cars. You're all relaxed, sitting around for the most part. Not the host. I understand the hosts are usually busy. I've been on the other side of the table. But for the participants, you usually show up, wipe your car down, and pop out your chair and talk to your friends, right? So it's a great time to just meet and have time to converse with people, right? So that's one type of event. Then we also have the concourse, though, as well. You want to give us the breakdown on the concourse?
Concourse is a little more highbrow. It's not just parking the car and enjoying it, although you get to still do that, and you get to brag about your car as the public will walk by. But a concourse is a judged competition. There's typically 3 judges, and this has a little more structured rule set. You need there's usually a judge that judges the interior. There's a judge that'll do or maybe a team of judges then that'll do the engine. And then there's another team of judges that'll do the exterior. They all judge your car, and maybe the engine's worth 5 points. And if it's perfect, you'll get 5 points. If they find something that maybe there's a fingerprint. I've lost points because I was cleaning something on the engine and I left elbow marks on the fender, and I lost points because they could. If you hold your head just right on this light, you can see that. And that's what they're supposed to do, is how perfect can you make the car? Perfect and clean. It doesn't even have to be perfect, but just
that's a concourse.
Well-maintained. It's a concourse. It's judged. How good is your car? And that's kind of fun too for some of these people who have a nice car, which isn't me. Mine's a race car too. It's a street car. I drive it on the street, but it's had a hard life. Yeah. But it's mechanically sound. Anyway, it's fun then to prep your car, get it clean, and have it judged. And sometimes it's humbling because it's maybe not what you thought it was, or maybe it's sometimes quite exhilarating to find out that you won the class.
Yeah, well, I did that experience once. Before I got deep into autocrossing, I had a slightly nicer C5. And I did at convention, did the concourse just for the experience. And I didn't score too horribly, but there were things I didn't even think of, like cleaning underneath the side mirrors when they asked me to rotate them and they were dirty, and didn't even think about that. And you don't think about that at most car shows, or cleaning inside the gas cap and stuff like that, right? But anyways, it was an interesting experience. And car shows, this is where we talk about support, because car show judging is always a problem, and what kind of method are you going to follow? Well, if you're doing Corvettes and you want to do a Corvette show, NCCC has got you covered. We have methodology and judging sheets ready for you to pull out and go do the job. So next one I want to talk about is Autocross. That's the one I've gotten really far into and spent a lot of money on: tires, brakes, wheel bearings. But it's a lot of fun, So Autocross, we can have it a lot of different places, just about any open parking lot or any open paved surface. One of the spots we usually go to is Owens Community College in Perrysburg. We have a mixed region there. Tire Rack invites us out sometimes. They have a big pad out there, and we set up out there. But anywhere we can set up, all we need is cones and some cars. And we usually keep the speeds generally under 85 miles an hour. It's actually specified in our rule book to keep it under 80.
80 miles an hour is the limit.
80 miles an hour for a C4, because now they're building 1,000 horsepower Corvettes. And I can't promise you that if you are brave enough to bring your brand new ZR1X out to Autocross and want to test it, if you can get it over 85 miles an hour, I'm going to guess you probably can. That's a lot of horsepower. God bless you for buying it. I'm hoping you're having fun, but generally we don't. And if you want to really see what Autocross is really about, I could talk about it forever, but check out the rest of the Governor's Garage channel. There is a lot on it because I do a lot of Autocross. There's exterior car views, there's interior car views. I know, Jeff, you've got views on your channel. That is absolutely well documented on our channel. So that would lead us in. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, an Autocross is an exhilarating entry-level opportunity for you to have fun with your Corvette. And a lot of people are hesitant because they would say, "Oh, people are going to be watching me. I don't want to make a fool of myself." You won't. You're not going to be the only one that's doing it for the first time. Out there, you just drive it. You don't have to set a record. Just drive it and experience it. And then the next run, you go a little harder. I mean, the first run in any autocross, this would be my advice for a newbie.
Hmm.
Even if you've done it a few times,
Yep.
your first run's never going to be your fastest. So don't ruin it. I've gone gangbusters on my first run and gotten lost. And I shouldn't do that. I got to just drive the course. Just drive it slow. It doesn't care. Nobody's watching. Just go have fun with your car and
That's
then
right.
build on that.
That's right. You can't attack the course if you don't know where you're going. You have to attack, you can't react. So, all right. But after that gets boring, and I guess, I don't know, some people might get boring and they have a need for higher speed, they can call you and tell us about the high speed and time trial events that you're trying to bring back in full force because, like, unfortunately, and you tell a lot of people this, we don't do enough of them, and primarily it's a convention feature now, and you've really, really tried hard. It is a feature in our rule book, and I support it. So let's talk about it. What are high speed and time trials?
Well, a lot of people generically use the term high speed, uh, but the term is high speed autocross. It's the same philosophy as the low speed autocross. You're in a pylon, in a parking lot going through pylons. The high speed autocross is usually on a paved set track. And if and you will reach speeds over 80 miles an hour, and the rules are a little different. There's got to be corner workers, there's got to be an ambulance and a tow truck, and just safety precautions in place which separate the high speed from the low speed. But that's an opportunity to go on a track and see someplace that's pretty cool. Now, it's kind of rare anymore that we will do a high-speed autocross. Tracks are very expensive to rent. We don't really get the opportunity to rent it ourselves to do that. But what is becoming more popular, and it helps to partner with an organization that's going to rent the track, and they're very accommodating, and they've let NCCC come in and partner with them, or I shouldn't even say partner, piggyback,
Hmm.
take advantage of their work. So I've been doing a lot of time trials on a track where another organization spends the money. They have the working crew, they have all the things in place. I just have to go show up with a clipboard to find out who in the NCCC is participating, and they also have been letting me give awards at the end of their trophy presentation, sometimes before their trophy presentation. But a time trial is an opportunity to be on track. They usually have 20-minute lapping sessions where you can get on track. Um, each lap is timed. You have a transponder in the car, and you could have time to kind of feel your car. What's comfortable? Is it working right? I'll go a little harder here. I'm learning the track. I'm learning my car. So it's hard to do that one lap at a time. But if you have a 20-minute lapping session, and I understand not every car can last 20 minutes, you don't have to stay out 20 minutes. You can, my son, he's a much better driver than I am. Edit that part out. But he will do about 3 laps and get off. I'll stay out to the checkered flag because I need the practice.
Right.
And the C5s and up, they don't seem to mind so much. I go through a lot of brakes. I have to have brake duct coolers. Ducting. If you start going aggressively, you got to start thinking longevity. Or just do a couple laps and get off. But it's nice to be able to do in a consecutive lap. Try this, try that element. Did it work? Did it feel comfortable? And you can learn. It's much easier to learn, but that's what a time trial is. It's
And you leaned
opportunity.
into a couple things there I want to point out when we talk about NCCC supporting local clubs there, because you mentioned some things about needing some certain prep on your car to go to high speed. Autocross, and the reason why it's so popular is you can pretty much show up with your street car. You can drive there. You can adjust your tire pressure. You can run for the day, change your tire pressure back, drive home with with your helmet in the trunk, and all is well. Not necessarily the high speed. You absolutely got to change your brake fluid, and you got to make sure everything else is on point. Your tires are going to get hot. Your brakes are going to get hot. Your brake fluid's going to get hot. Your oil's going to get hot. Your coolant's going to get hot. It's going to work the car hard. And the good news is about being within Triple C in a group like this is you have people that are experienced that's going to share that with you, help you get your car prepped, help you instruct you on your first time out to make sure you don't do something like that. We mentioned in Renee's episode, he didn't swap his brake fluid and put a car in a sand trap one time. And then to make sure that you're ready, we don't just turn you loose. We have high-speed certifications. So your regional competition director is going to have to observe you. Now, that doesn't mean you're new to the organization. You have to, if Jeff Gordon shows up, we will give him his high-speed certification if he wants to join today. No problem. So, Jeff, if you're out there and you want to come back and do some Corvette stuff, you're more than welcome to join with us. But anyway, with that being said, though, we do. I mean, we're out here to do things safely. We are looking out. We will have those conversations with you as a member, but the goal is to get you out there and get you competing, not to keep you from it. We are not gatekeeping. We are supporting and prepping you to get out there to do it safely and do it the right way. So, and I know, Jeff, you've been a big supporter of that, and I appreciate that. And next thing we do, and I know this is local up here, CCM does something that you don't see a whole lot of when we talk about rallies. So a lot of people hear rally and they think about rally cars racing off-road. We don't do that with Corvettes. We don't have all-wheel drive and off-road suspensions. Our rallies are on-the-road rallies. You follow all road rules. It's not the, what was that, the Cannonball Rally? Cannonball Run? It's not that. It's not the Gumball 2000 or whatever those other things I've heard them called. These are, you have to follow the rules. If you get pulled over and get a ticket, it is an automatic disqualification in our event. Yeah. So the goal is to follow all rules, but there's a couple different styles. So there's the time, speed, distance, and the SCCA people will understand this. So it's basically what it says. You try to travel a certain distance in a set amount of time, and you try to match that with your speed and try to get as close as possible. He who makes the best time or closest to the set time wins. Usually in those events, you don't have much of a trick to the route. It's usually just follow the route, but try to do it correctly.
Sometimes those will have a directions like drive, turn right and drive for 2 minutes and then turn left.
Yep.
It might not give you a road name.
That's right.
What's that road in 2 minutes?
It
depends on how you want to set it up.
That's right. That depends. I have not seen that level of TSD rally lately, thank goodness. But you're right. That would absolutely be a fair question. Normally, you'd see stuff like that under the gimmick and game rallies now. That's usually where you get clues to a course or some other way. It is what it is. It's a gimmick or a game, right? So I've done it where you've got to find street signs. I've done it where you've got to find business signs. I've done it where you've got to solve riddles to know what your next turn is, whether it's a right or a left. There's been a couple of different gimmicks to it, but the idea is to figure out how to finish. And the game rallies look much more like Funkhana's. Funkhana's tend to be done, and we'll get into that next. But the difference between a Funkhana and a game rally is whether or not you're driving down the road and stopping to play the games or you're doing them all in one area. So a game rally and a Funkhana look very much the same as where you're playing yard games. You're going to pull up with your Corvette and play some variation of a yard game, whether you're throwing like cornhole from inside the car or you've done a shuffleboard one where you've got to get out, get the shuffleboard stuff out, do some shuffleboard and get back in. So the only
rally could, a rally, some people have described it to me as once they got into it, it's like a scavenger hunt.
That's one version. Yep.
So you could get in your car and, like you said, you look for clues, and sometimes you decode. Like Aldi's, the sign it had one of the clues was dial, unscramble this word, and it's Aldi's, and that's the answer, and you go on to the next one.
Yep. And poker rallies fall under this too. So poker runs, we would call them poker rally. That would fall under a gimmick. That again, you've got a route, and the gimmick here is whoever collects the best card's going to win. There's no real skill to that, so it falls under gimmick rally.
That's probably the safest one for a marriage or young couple.
I agree. Even though I will tell you, people say that. I had my 9-year-old daughter, and I showed up and did CCM's TSD rally. No problem. Daughter takes it seriously, and she is my rally princess. Now, we do not take the rallies seriously. What she's serious about is getting to the ice cream at the end. So when we didn't finish once, we still got ice cream at the end, so that's all that mattered. But we have finished when some adults have not and stuff, and that's true. Jeff, I'm not going to say that that's not wrong, but I think you have to know your own temperament. It absolutely is. If you guys can't sit down and do a puzzle well together, well, you're not going to do a puzzle on the road together. So,
well, even if you can do a puzzle, it seems to heighten the tension in a rally.
Yes, sir. Safer bet though is the Funkhanas, right? And I think that's why we've seen a resurgence of that fun, is because we do them all in the same area. There's not a route to follow, and we just go up and play silly games like throw beach balls at hula hoops or throw cornhole, or we've thrown spark plugs at buckets and all kinds of stuff. I did one where I made people parallel park as a game. You know, they had to pull up, and I thought it was funny because someone asked me if they could back in. I guess if you want to get in there, you're going to have to. Like I wasn't sure. Yeah, it was set up to parallel park. It's kind of how that's going to work. Because that's the next variation, right? Was the time Funkhana, right? Which is speeds are like autocross, like you said. It's like an autocross. You put your helmets on, and now it becomes integrated into a race, and it can be a tide. So it could be where you have to race out there, do a lap around the bucket, get out, put a basketball in it, get back in your car, and get back to the finish line. He who gets here first wins. That is one version of a Funkhana.
Yeah. But what's becoming more and more popular, because helmets aren't cheap.
No.
If you don't have a helmet, you need a helmet for that style.
Mm-hmm.
But the new style, which has been what, 2-3 years,
Yeah.
It's basically a low speed Funkhana, and the speeds, I'm not the expert on the rules, but I think the speeds are, like parking lot, 10 mile an hour, if that. But time isn't the element. It's the score on the gimmicks. So you creep up to something and grab something out the window and pass it to the driver and they put it back, or like you were saying. So it's you don't need a helmet, you don't need a roll bar. You just go and do these fun elements with your Corvette.
That's right. So, and you're right. It came back. It's been the last 3 years. We did that with a clarification that the rule is under 10 miles an hour or stationary, you don't have to wear helmets. And that opened up a lot of participation because, yes, a good helmet is $300 to $500. So, all right. And here's another one that you have participated in that has lost some focus, but it's there. It's in our rule book. Economy runs. You have some experience with this.
I used to love economy runs. It's a little. I haven't seen one in 30 years. I think somebody did one fairly recently, but I haven't done one in 30 years. Where you start off at a gas station, you fill up the tank, and then you drive a known route. There's checkpoints. They got to make sure that they know you've been there, and you come back to the gas station. And the ones I would experienced, they would cover up the gas pump meter, so they don't know how much is in there, and they try to fill it up to the consistent level that they started you off at. In the old days with a C2s and C3s, you can take the gas cap off and see the level, and you can get it to when it touches the bottom of the fill neck or something. But these newer ones, and I guess these cars have bladders, and sometimes the bladders aren't always as flat or as the next car. So I understand there's some concern over that with an economy run, but it's still, I'd love to do an economy run where you just drive economically and try to use as little fuel as possible. But whoever takes the least fuel in your class wins.
Yep.
That's an odd concept for a Corvette driver.
Yeah, but it's still another way to have fun, just something different. And it is in the rule book. We have all the guidelines of how to do it. And yes, I do understand. I believe the C8s, maybe the GM engineers has made that a little bit harder because I do think that there's some kind of adjustability of volume in the tank due to the bladder system. But with that being said, though, we'll talk about the complete opposite of an economy run, which is drag racing. Which
Nice segue.
Absolutely. But tell me, Jeff, because you've done a little more drag racing than I have, what does NCCC drag racing look like?
Well, it's a bit more user friendly than traditional drag racing. It is traditional drag racing, but we have, being that we're a Corvette club, we're very good at isolating like Corvettes and putting them in appropriate groups. So there are basically three types of drag racing. There's the traditional heads up drag racing. First one there wins. You run your class, the lights go down together. First one there wins. That's exhilarating. You try to, maybe it doesn't sound as much fun as you might think it is because and there's no turns. But man, watching those lights and trying to beat your opponent out of the hole and not red light, you get to the end and the winner advances. The loser, usually you're done. But we get a few practice runs. We do the like I said, that's the head-to-head record drags, whether it's they're actually counting for records or not. Then there's the matching times, which is very casual. They don't care how fast you got, how who gets there first. It's you're going to make a run. How close can you get to that run? Matching times, and usually the winner is within hundredths of thousands of a second. 0.003 could be a winner, as opposed to mine, which varies by a half a second, depending on what I screwed up that run or not. But and then there's bracket drags where this is maybe a little more traditional for, the Saturday night, the open track nights. You dial in a time. I think I can get there in 13.5 seconds. And if you get there in 13.4, you lose because you can dial in a time and you get a head start. If somebody dials in a 13.0 and I dial in a 13.5, I get a half a second head start. And theoretically, if we both do everything right, we'll finish together. So it's who wins on that scenario. So there's a little bit more of a head game going on there. But when we have a convention, we have usually all three of those. And it's, believe it or not, it's exhilarating. I'm not a drag racer, but I had a blast learning how to drag race.
But yes, bracket racing is popular for that reason because, you just got to be consistent and do your own thing, whether you're running a stock car or an all-out dragger. It just got to run a consistent run every time.
Overall top eliminator is the winners of each class go head to head with the dial in, and they use the record in your class as that dial in. So if you're running close to the record, you got a pretty good shot at getting an advantage in that competition.
And then we have convention competitions. So everything we just mentioned becomes available at convention, one of each. And I'm not sure. I know you've tried. Did you win overall competitor at convention one year?
I've done it twice, actually.
Okay. All right. So you've done it twice. What years were that?
2017 and 2021, I believe. When I was in the East Ohio region, in this last convention, I had the delusions of grandeur. I thought, wouldn't it be cool? I think I would have been the first person to win it in two different regions, but I failed miserably. I didn't get out of the first round this time.
All these operate under the same framework. So one of the big things about having a national organization is every one of those events I just mentioned is the consistency. So there's a social component to every one of them, absolutely. But from a competitor standpoint, there's consistency when you go to each one of these events. You are helping your other competitors. You're spending time with them. We often go out to eat, whether it's a racing event and it's not planned. We'll usually have an evening dinner where those that are sticking around get together. But this is where each other helps people with their cars, or what did you do, or what did you do. Now, serious competitors, we're here to help. But just remember, they're not going to tell you everything. That's not going to happen. They'll always hold something back, but they'll tell you a lot. Just remember, there's some things you're just going to have to learn the old school way, which is the hard knocks and trial and error. But anyway, so now we've dug into competition and all the different types, okay? And we've used this word, sanctions. So, but people have heard the term sanctioning body if you've been around boxing or monster trucks and stuff like that. Somebody is sanctioning this event. So what does that mean? That means somebody is putting up the rules and regulations, insurance, and other things that it takes to actually put the event on. They're not the host, they're not the organizer, but they're the one who facilitates the event. So some ways you could look at NCCC as being a sanctioning body when it comes to competitions. So what does that mean? They provide structure, consistency. You have the same rules no matter where you go, and if you don't like it, think they're doing something wrong, you have an authority you can appeal to and protest based on the results of the outcomes. Jeff, tell us what insurance means to somebody who's trying to host an event and operate a club.
Well, I want to touch on sanction numbers as well as insurance. Insurance, when you participate as an NCCC member, you are covered. If you're at a car show and you back your car through the plate glass window of the dealership, NCCC will be involved in helping make that dealership whole again. If you're not a member of NCCC, well, now you're going to have to call your insurance company. NCCC is there to protect, not you, not your car per se. Well, it's going to protect you, but I mean, it's not going to, if you've damaged your car, that's on you. But if there's damage to the facility, NCCC is there that you are protected, that the facility will be made whole without having to impact your life to the detriment.
That's right, and the facilities know this. They're worried about their liability, what they're opening themselves up to, and they want to be protected. They don't care about your car or your club or who's paying for it. They just want to know they're protected, and we show up with that certificate. So, as someone who's approaching people, how much better is it when you have that certificate in hand?
Oh yeah, they're related that we have that protection. They're so much more welcoming. I mean, I've organized some events, and they're, the shuffleboard thing you were talking about. When I tell them, and by the way, here's my certificate of insurance, they go, "Wow, that's fantastic!" And then they get more bubbly and perky. But
it's a completely different conversation then.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But let's get back to the sanctions. So the one thing I touched on earlier is within your regions, these sanctions also, when you have a sanctioned day, that blocks out the calendar that now belongs to your club. Whether you're having one event or you're having 7 events, because we're allowed to have up to 7 events in a day, and we'll break that down here in a second. That day is now protected for that event type. Now, we have clarified in our rule book that you can't have a car show and a drag race on the same day, because those are basically separate crowds. We've recognized that for the most part that does not pull cars from one event to the other, and the few that it does not matter, because we bump into facility availability dates and stuff like that. So there is some common sense that's built into it, but for the most part, that is the big part right there, is it does protect you with the clubs that you have an agreement with. You have a day where they're not going to be splitting up where everybody's going.
And that's a regional thing. It's worth noting.
Regional.
So if you have 2 neighboring regions and you might be separated by a couple of miles, if you're 2 different regions, you can each have a car show. Although it's usually a courtesy, if that situation exists, that you talk to your neighboring regions, because you want to bring those people to yours and you go to theirs. So you might want to coordinate across state lines.
Yeah, that's very much an Ohio perspective. You guys have to worry about that way more than anybody in some other regions too. So. You guys, you're way more packed in than the rest of us. But so sanctions then, as you look at it from that way, they become an opportunity, right? Members from other clubs and regions come to your event because they earn points nationally. So when we talk about what you're pulled into, so at each one of these event types, that's the sanctioning. Another thing that we do is we have standardized points awarding system based on the event type. And when you do this and you protect it, all your points chasers are anyways, we've mentioned earlier, maybe you're running for a regional championship, maybe you're running for a national championship, or maybe you're just running for your club championship. So you're going to choose the events that work for you based on what's going on. But within the region, what's nice about that is this is the only pointed event that day. And as we mentioned across some other regions, if nothing's going on in Ohio and there's a pointed event in Michigan, maybe it's better to come up here than to drive all the way to Iowa for their event. And, NCCC as a organization with sanctions, once you register that event, there's a national database where everybody can go and see this event. National, regional, and your own local club can all see when that event goes up, see the flyer, get all the information that they need, who to contact if they need further information. It's all there. That's what makes getting a sanction so important, and where the regional organization really comes into effect to support you. Now, let's talk about limitations on sanction use. So each club gets 14 now.
Relatively new upgrade, yeah.
A relatively new upgrade. So, as I mentioned, 7 per day. Smart organizers leverage their sanctions. And when I had clubs, as we were preparing for this, come up and tell me they haven't had a sanctioned event in over 20 years. And I'm like, what are you doing? But it's a plug-in of why we need to do this episode, because people don't understand this. And now, I've never made it to a 4-day weekend, but I've made multiple 3-day weekends, and I've made it to Tire Rack for their 3-day weekend at Howard hosts. And yeah, we get 21 sanction numbers down there. We have Indiana, we have Michigan, and usually Ohio. Sometimes East and West Ohio numbers thrown into the mix. And I think one time we had some Midwest numbers, maybe. But the good portion of that is that you pull points chasers for whatever the reason is. If they're the regional guys, because hey, look, if that regional number's pulled that day, that blocks that region. And so they're not having another autocross somewhere else in the region. So everybody's coming there. And if you do that with 4 regions, you've got all your regional points people coming there. You got your national people who's looking for bulk. They see a 14 or 21 event weekend, they're coming. And yeah, on a lot of those weekends, going back to the social side of it, you do, because people know, hey, everybody's coming. They plan events, some cookouts or something. Everybody come over to the house. We're going to have a cookout or something, or they plan dinners in the evening, certain restaurants that everybody wants to go to. So sanctions become a real opportunity for leverage for your own events. It drives participation. And that's the real thing when we talk about the clubs and the connection with community. It's not just about competition. Competition's the reason why we come together. We have sports cars. We want to come out and enjoy them as sports cars. Some people want to come out and show them, and they want to show that they're better at taking care of their car more than you are, and that they can find that little fingerprint that Jeff missed. And I am a member of another club with some people who take show cars very seriously. And boy, when they show up, I'm going to tell you, we pull in that parking lot, we absolutely act very differently. I pull up, dust my car off, pull my chair out, and I walk off. And I go start socializing people. Man, they're over there working. And that's okay. Yeah. It takes all types. It really does. They win trophies that are 4 foot tall for their cars. I don't blame them. My car's not bringing those trophies home. But I like going to almost all the events for the social aspect of it. It's a really strong component of this. And I've touched on this in other episodes where they say in our generation, a lot of us are losing our third place. We have work and home and then what, and these kind of community organizations provide that. So anyways, that's what I use it for. I've dug deep into it. I know for people who've watched the series, Jennifer and I touched on that. She's really dug deep into this, and she's gotten serious into chasing points and traveling all over like I have. And Jeff, I know you have. And it's great. I mean, we build some really great friendships. We could race with a lot of different organizations. The draw here is a lot of the friendships. So, and one of those things, and we got into this earlier with the competitions, but I want to dig into this a little bit deeper now. With the social side of it, let's talk about convention, because I love going to convention. It's my annual vacation. And I just don't know. Let's talk about it. I mean, I go to convention, you go to convention. There's a lot of people out here watching this has never been to a national convention. And I tell people I love it. First one I went to was Cleveland. Then I went to Bowling Green. Last one was Wisconsin. Now I'm going to Syracuse. I wouldn't have taken a vacation in any of those cities. But I'm so glad I wouldn't have went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or Ralphie's house in Cleveland. I've done that. Took the dinner cruise on the Cuyahoga River. That was an awesome experience. My wife and I love that. Would not have done that otherwise. Same thing with the attractions in Wisconsin. Now, my son went with me to Bowling Green. We spent more time at the Corvette Motorsports Park and doing the Autocross. It was a completely different experience, and he got to spend time at the museum and do the exhibits and stuff there. So, Jeff, tell me about your experience with convention, because I know you've went to a lot and you've experienced them differently. I think in Wisconsin, you looked at me and said you didn't compete this time, and just once that pressure was off, you enjoyed it a whole lot more. You may not have known as well either. I had a blown wheel bearing before I went up there that I just ended up saying, screw it too. I pulled out of the autocross and said, I'm not going to be ready. I'm not even going to worry about it. And I did. I got up there and it was just, so I'm not going to.
This one was a little different for me in Wisconsin. It was a lot of fun. It was more relaxed because I did compete. I was going for the overall competitor, and kudos to NCCC for separating speed and non-speed. I was against it at the beginning. I was wrong. It's actually a very good program. It gets a whole bunch of different people involved and aware of the point structure, because now, you don't get as many points doing shows as you do for doing an autocross. So if you were in a competition for something national and you only did shows, you didn't have a chance. Now you do. And they've also separated that in convention. They have speed and non-speed overall competitors. And I've been shooting for the overall competitor the last 2 years. And to do that in the old days, you had to do everything.
Everything.
And now, because they've separated it, it's either or. You either do the speed or you do the non-speed. I did the speed, which freed up a lot of my time. And my wife was with me, and I was able to spend a lot more time with her, and I was able to do some of the more social aspects. We went on a river cruise, a dinner cruise. I wouldn't have had time to do that if I was having to go to a car show or something else. I mean, they have more than one, but usually there's the river cruise might be during a race on one day and then during the show on the other. So you can usually do just about everything you want to do at the convention. So this one was a little more relaxed and enjoyable for me because not only did I get to compete and everything I wanted to, didn't do as well as I had hoped, but I had fun competing, and I got to do the nice relaxing things with my wife, and the dinner cruise was fantastic. That was a conventions. People put a lot of work into these, and it shows. It's always an opportunity to see things that you maybe wouldn't otherwise do. I mean, I like you said, well, I live in Cleveland, and some of the things you've talked about going to, I've done, but some other things that I don't get to do, even though it's in my own backyard. You forget
Yeah.
to go enjoy some of these things. So it's the convention is a chance to see people from all over the nation, all of these other clubs, and maybe you ran into some of these people before, but you probably have seen some of these people at other conventions if you start going to them, and it becomes more of a reunion and a chance for camaraderie and just a good time to go out. And every evening, almost every evening, there's a dinner or an award ceremony or a party of some sort. And it could be goofy. It could be a crazy hat night. It could be I'm not sure everything that they're doing at this convention, but it's all in the database, which we haven't really talked about yet. Look up everything there is to do in any circle. But the convention is like I said, it's a microcosm of the whole season all in one week. It's a good time.
Yeah. And the one thing I didn't hear you mention, hospitality room. That gets pretty.
Oh,
Yeah, that gets
gosh,
it. That
my
that's
bad.
that's popular with some people, right? Free beer,
Yeah.
wine, put on by the national organizations, so small stacks. It's usually open for the majority of the day through the afternoon as other things are going on. So if it's one of your off days, you can go down there and sit down, have a couple beers, and talk to people who also have nothing else to do that day. There's usually always, about 20 or 30 people sitting around in there. Um,
Or the Corvette Mall. And this
yep.
this last year it was in the same building, the same area.
That's right. So now that's the fun side of stuff. And, convention it's like a vacation with your Corvette. I was a little nervous the first time, not knowing what to
Sure.
expect, but every time since then it's been like, man, will convention just get here? I want to go. All right, so that's the fun side of National. Then there's the dull side, which, if you're like me, you can make it fun, which is the National Quarterly Meetings, right? My son and I, so we go down to St. Louis. This is 4 times a year, so it's quarterly meetings, and we like to go down because we get to use the gym on the plaza, the members only gym. So we have a good time there. Well, I don't have a squat rack at home and a bench press. I got some free weights and stuff, but I don't have all the equipment, so it's a good chance to work out in a good gym without having to pay money. But it's another time of the year that we get together. We do conduct business while we're there, but there's always a social side there. There is another hospitality
Well, to
room.
clarify, to
Yep.
clarify though, I mean, people always talked about going to the governor's meeting. Well, yeah, there's a governor's meeting. It's on a Saturday, and like you were saying, each club has a governor, and where you're expected to send your governor or at least a proxy. And there's what 400 some governors in the governor's meeting. It's a big to do. But prior to that, I mean, there's all sorts of pre-meetings. So I like to call it the national meetings, not necessarily the governor's meeting weekend, the national meetings, because on Friday there's the RCD, the regional competition director. Each region has one RCD, and they're the ones that pretty much set the policy for the rule book that then has to be ratified by the governors. There's also the convention steering committee, people who are running the convention. They get together, future conventions, and they kind of talk and plan and guide and steer the conventions. There's the
Hmm.
regional executives meetings that's happening about that same time on Friday. And the REs are the another regional office. They are responsible for the conducting the region within the rules, make sure everyone's doing their job, to make sure the RE is doing their job, the membership person's doing their job. And then there's also the RMDs, the regional membership directors. So there's one representative from each region that goes to the regional membership meetings, and they can talk about problems, issues, and come to policy about membership. So all these meetings are taking place on Friday, and then when those meetings are done, depending on how long the West Ohio Region RCD talks, the RCD sometimes get to go and enjoy the hospitality suite, which is what you were leading up to. I apologize for interrupting you.
That's true. During my time as RCD, I will say this last quarterly meeting was my first time as just a governor and not as RCD. And going to the hospitality room was a new experience for me. I was used to going up and hoping there was some scraps left and maybe grab a pack of peanuts and a Diet Coke on my way back to the room. But anyway, but yes, it is where business gets done. And like I said, we do have a hospitality room. We still do socialize when we're there. Again, if you're watching this channel, you will see I got 2 episodes done while I was there. I got Howard as well, as we mentioned Debbie as the convention, but Howard's a gem, another great character, been with NCCC for many years, lots of stories from lots of events. He's been all over the country. Yeah, but he's been all over the country, and he knows all the characters too. So he came and shared some of those stories. So, and that's what it comes down to, because we came for the car, but we stayed for the people. Regardless of the organization and the structure of it, it's the people and the stories that really make us stick around. So let's talk about the culture of the club, right? And helping someone learn, helping fix problems, encouraging new members. Renee mentioned this in his episode, right? He said that he'd raced with a few organizations, but he saw when something happened here, and I've seen this too, your car breaks or something, people running over to help see if you can get it fixed or helping you push it on a trailer. And he said, so you know what? This is where I want to be. Jeff, you're a serious competitor, and you've been to a lot of the social events too. I mean, you, like me, you do convention, you do the national meetings, you do the local events, you're active in your club. Talk a little bit about that culture of helping each other out.
Well, I'm biased from a racing point of view, like Renee was saying. When you're at the track and something breaks, man, you'll be hard pressed to not find somebody willing to help you. There's usually some people, they're not familiar with mechanics, they won't work on their car, but there's usually a bunch there. They have their tools, and something's not right with your car. You can't keep running. They'll jump on it and help you. If it's just fixing a tire, changing a tire, something's not running right. I mean, they'll swarm on your car to get you back on the track, even if it means you're in their class. You're going to be competing against them. They want to compete against you. They don't want to see you on the sidelines. So that's a very very warm feeling when your competitors jump in and help you. And that's very prevalent. And I suspect even outside of the competition world, even at socials, if you break down, or there's subcategories, and I'm not the expert on these things, but there's members helping members. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
So if you're out of town and you have a problem with your car, there's on the database you can find somebody that might be in that area that can help you. Give you a tow, trailer, or to jump, or whatever you might need.
Yeah,
this is a different kind of community.
Yep, and we're going to dig into that in a second with some other programs that people may not realize, because with that program, there are other programs that are in existence that don't get a lot of press. So the one thing I wanted to share here when we talk about helping new members too is this episode's a little special, because none of this would have happened, and sometimes people look past this, but there was a specific moment that happened in Ohio that probably determined whether or not I was going to stay around and be a competitor, or probably just been like, yeah, that was a cool experience, and went on my way. And that was my second autocross, but it was my first mixed regional event, right? So here I go representing my club, and I go down to Perrysburg, Ohio. And I line up. This is the first time I'm doing an autocross in an open parking lot, because I'd always done them on up here at Corrigan, where we did it on a speedway. right? So even though there were cones out there, we had pretty defined paths. So I pull up there, and I'm all excited, and they yell, "Go!" And I take off like a bat out of you-know-what. And I look at the gate as I drive by it. Then I finish the course, and I come back, and I'm sitting there, and I'm going, my first lap, I just completely drove off course. Way to go. And then you came walking over.
Who?
You.
Oh.
You came moseying over. You said, "Kyle, did you have a DNR? Did you see where you go off?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Okay, I just wanted to make sure you saw where it was because you're not the only person that missed that gate taking off." And then you walked off, and I said, "Oh, they're not mad at me." I relaxed. And I thought back that day could have went very differently because I was really stressing in my car, sitting there. Are they mad at me because I've mixed up the flow of the event? Because I don't know. It was my second event. I didn't know. I just knew I'd just really done something stupid, drove off course and looked like an idiot, and got a DNR or DNF or whatever you just said. Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, that relaxed me. It made me realize, that there are people here to help, and kind of started setting that path in the right direction. And I don't think people understand how much those moments mean, because I could have felt very different during that session, came out of my car very differently, kept to myself, been embarrassed and nervous for the rest of the day, never met anybody, went home and never wanted to come back. All because I screwed up and I was nervous and nobody said it. You know what I mean? But coming over and just offering assistance, saying, "Hey, man, everything okay?" Just makes a big difference. And I keep that in mind, especially when we get new people coming out. I always want to make sure they feel comfortable. I always want to let them know we're all still here learning. We're all here to help. You need something, let me know. Especially when I was the RCD, I'd go over and tell them, "I'm the RCD. I'm ultimately responsible for what's going on here. If you need anything, just come over and let me know. If you got any questions, just grab me. That's what I'm here for today." You'd be amazed at some of the silly questions people ask. And I'm glad they do, because it can make the difference in whether or not they come back or have a good or bad day. They get nervous about, do I have to keep my window up? Do I have to park? Where can I park? When people roll up, we're so accustomed to it, they don't even know where to park.
Just try to cover things at the driver's meeting, obviously. But yeah, there's lots of little things that maybe a first timer might not know, and they're nervous enough. Everyone thinks they're watching you. They're not watching you. They're worried about themselves. If you have problems, they'll jump over and help you. But don't worry about people watching. But just go out and have some fun.
And listen, if you've got a couple of DNFs in a row, I promise you, timing's going to call it out, and they're going to put somebody in your car, not to be mean, to come help you out. But that's what it comes down to. That's why it's good to have a repetitive group of people who you go racing with or rallying with or car showing with or whatever. You build these relationships, and it starts to elevate above just this silly car we all like to go running around in. But so you started to touch on the Friends Helping Friends. So let's talk on some other programs. And these are not competition programs, but these are support programs. So you mentioned it, so let's just take it up first. The Family Helping Family program. So you can go online and you can register for this. And like you led into, it's a way to support your community, whether with your talents. Let's look at it from that side.
Yeah.
You have talents, you're in a club, and we'd love for you to support others, whether that is with your knowledge of being able to repair trailers, whether you have a big fancy toolbox that you're welcome or you're willing to let other people use, or whether you've got an extra bed that you don't care if someone stops by and sleeps out while they're traveling. All of those are things that falls under this Family Helping Family program. Jeff, so you started to touch on it earlier, so why don't you expand on that a little bit? What do you know about that program?
I think you covered everything I know about it already. I know it exists. I haven't had the opportunity to need it or use it. I'm ashamed to say, but I should probably explore that.
And then we have a scholarship program that we can apply for as well. So if you have children or grandchildren, they can apply for a college scholarship. No, it's not a full ride. No, we're not going to send your kid to Harvard. But it is something. Again, I haven't looked into the full details, but it exists. It is a program we have. again, I'm hoping to bring Michelle on here to talk about that. Jeff, what do you know about these programs, and what do you know? Has anybody in your clubs or anybody you know tapped into any of this?
Not to my knowledge. In fact, I had forgotten about that one myself. There's so many facets to NCCC. I'm not an expert on all of them, but I like the fact that you're planning to get the experts involved on your podcast, and then we can all know.
So yes, I'm hoping we can find a time to get Michelle in here and talk a little bit more about that. So now we're going to move into new members. For new members, you don't need to know all this at first, right? Like, it's a lot. I know I don't see what the time counter is, but I know we've been into this conversation for a minute, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
Honestly, you can join NCCC knowing that you're covered, you have insurance, and that you're going to meet a lot of awesome people in the next coming years. And that's all you need to know at first. You don't need to understand everything immediately. Just start showing up with your club.
Yeah, have fun with your car. But I might disagree with you. I was involved for so
Okay.
long, it's almost assumed that I would know. In fact, that's something I would advise governors with blessing their club, especially if you've got some new members. People will use acronyms or phrases or reference something that they think everyone knows. And I could tell you that in my case, there's a lot of things that I was confused by. I know that's coming as a surprise that I was confused by anything, but there's a lot about NCCC that I just didn't understand. In fact, even the whole top 15 thing, I didn't even know it existed. But just be careful how you explain things. I mean, it might be redundant or almost frustrating for seasoned veterans, but rather than referencing something by a code name or acronym, or spell it out. Tell us what's going on, what you're doing, what's activities, and make it spoon feed it when you're in your meetings.
Yeah.
That's would have helped me.
Yeah. I will tell you the other things that I really get into, and even with, and as I mentioned, I am a member of another Corvette club that is not an NCCC club. They are still a charitable club, but I still get in their ears about travel, go to other clubs, go to their events, go outside of the state. That's where the relationships are built. Not only with the people you meet when you get there, but with your own club. You spend time with them. That's when stories are built. And stories, that's where the relationships come from. I think you'll learn more about NCCC in one weekend if you go to one of these mixed region events. I think you'll learn, even if you just go work a corner at Autocross, go with someone from your club. You may not be a racer, just go work a corner. You'll learn more about NCCC that weekend than watching this video again, I promise you.
Yeah, nothing like firsthand experience.
Yeah. You got to go see the culture for yourself. Jeff, I mean, you've gone to a lot of these weekends. You see how inviting they are. Talk about some of the events you go to outside of the competition when you get there.
Well, depending on the group, there's, like you've already touched on it. Sometimes after the event, there's there'll be a cookout right there at the track. If it's a 2-day event, people camp out at the track. You kind of it reminds me of the old days when we were at the track camping out. Sometimes there'd be a little pit fire going, or a grill, or sometimes it's an opportunity. There'll be dinner provided where you can get a nice plate of food. It's almost like a potluck. Sometimes it'll be at somebody's house, but just a chance to hang out or socialize and find out what's going on in other people's lives. It's fun. It's just nice to hang out with people who share the same interests.
Jeff, again, is there anything else you want to throw in here?
Start going, having fun. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Just relax and enjoy. You have a Corvette. Let's go drive.
You make more memories behind the wheel than you do looking at them. So get out there, drive them, enjoy them. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email is capcitygovernor@gmail.com. Usually respond to you within a day, or I'll find out the information you need. Thanks for tuning in.